This has to be the most convoluted and confusing thing I've read in a long time. Anyway, so we're talking about 2017's Mobile Suit Gundam Valpurgis, written by Reiji Kaito, the author of Unbreakable Machine Doll, with art by Heian Katsuragi, a real consistent Gundam artist. Before we get into the reasons this is just so bewildering, I think it'll help to explain what it is. It's worth mentioning that this takes place in Universal Century 089, so as you might expect, it largely focuses on the consequences of the Grips conflict and the Battle of Axis. So it's really not a great jumping on point, and I cannot avoid spoiling Zeta or Double Zeta while talking about it, so if you haven't seen those shows, feel free to leave. I'll see you guys another time. As for everyone else, let's move on to the plot. Our story begins on the Side 2 colony Olympus, and we're immediately introduced to this story's main character, Mashiro Oaks, a high school student, pro gamer, and streamer. His father bursts in his room and tells him that he's just too good at life, with the story even flashing back to him berating Mashiro for getting good grades, like he's the opposite of an Asian father.
Emotional damage!
Mashiro is understandably frustrated by this, so he storms out, teeming with just teenage angst. Then all of a sudden, a pilot referring to Mashiro as Master Poptimus bursts through the colony wall. And unfortunately, Mashiro just dies. Story over, guys. Obviously not. So he wakes up a few panels later, completely unscathed, and in the meantime, an intense battle rages between Zeta 2 and a pilot calling herself Haman Karn, who was up until this point presumed dead at the end of Double Zeta. Turns out the pilot that busts through the walls is an anime waifu.
Konnichiwa, bitches!
And she's injured. So Mashiro is tasked with piloting her mobile suit to fight off Haman, with her in his lap for some neat fan service.
Lord have mercy. We must stay focused, brothers.
Turns out her mobile suit is a Gundam? While piloting this suit, Mashiro is almost like a man possessed, far more capable than he should be, and he almost blows up all of Olympus in the crossfire with no remorse, almost as if he was Shiroko himself. The rest of the story focuses on infighting within the Anti-Earth Union group, which makes a lot of sense since Char isn't leading them anymore and Bright is going to go on to form Londo Bell. It focuses on Neo-Zeon remnants, and it also focuses on uncovering Poptimus Shiroko's legacy, including the mysterious AGX Over.On Gundam that he had built. It's called that because Shiroko's old mobile suit was called Dio, and it's also a pun about Oberon, the Prince of Fairies. Is Haman who she says she is? Is Mashiro actually Shiroko reborn? Will he use his new type Riz to build a harem to conquer the universe? That's what this series really leads with. A lot of questions. There are some other characters worth mentioning. The pilot that refers to him as Master Poptimus.
Oh my god, the meat writing is crazy.
Her name is Fiorina Feely. She's one of the many members of Shiroko's Isekai tier harem, and she's tasked with bringing the Over-On to Mashiro. Thane Amaido is the Zeta 2's pilot that was fighting Haman. He's the real ace of the AUG in this, and he acts as Mashiro's mentor. Frederica Hermi is the captain of the ship that Mashiro ends up on. Alize Matiba is a crazy, horny Cyber type chick that tries to bang Mashiro instantly upon meeting him, because that's fun, I guess. She's also one of the main pilots in the storyline. And Raymond McKines is an Anaheim Electronics representative with JRPG final boss hair. Like literally everyone else, he also wants to use Mashiro. Wrapping up our overview, it's worth mentioning the name. Valpurgis, or Walpurgis, depends on who you ask. Broadly speaking, it refers to the festival of Walpurgis Night. In certain countries, people recreate bonfires while dancing, and it symbolically represents the burning of witches. That's what this manga is mainly concerned with, making a vague connection between witches and new types, saying that humanity has always ostracized and hunted those different than us. As a new type supremacist that planned to create a better life for his people by seizing power in the Titan faction, many characters in this storyline admire Shiroko's worldview. There's a big concern expressed that now that war times have ended and they don't know Char's rebellion is coming, new types will be shunned by the world at large. To say the least, this is a very ambitious storyline with more lofty ideas to juggle than most spin-off manga of Gundam. It sets up dozens of mystery boxes, some I didn't go over so you can discover them yourself, and it makes you curious with seemingly glaring lore contradictions. This is the main aspect that really killed the story for me. So like with a lot of mystery box stories, it's good at getting you curious enough to keep reading for a while, and as a result, I'd say this story is appealing at the beginning. The problem with it is that after that, it keeps stacking on mystery after mystery after mystery for like 30 chapters straight without foreshadowing or paying off really anything. I'd like to clarify that this entire manga is incredibly plot driven. There's not a single chapter without some lore revelation or massive fight happening, so it's really not all that concerned with its characters at all. There's no moments where it slows down and just allows people to be people. In my opinion, it just feels really busy. The best example of that would be the emotional core and heart of the storyline, which is Mashiro's relationship with Fiorina. I perceived most of the emotional beats revolving around this aspect and how you want to see these two people end up together. However, because of how busy it is, these two characters only really have 2 conversations on screen, so like, why should we care? And in one of those conversations, I hate how it's like trying to make us love her, even though she's worshipping an evil murderer Titans leader. We're supposed to believe that Mashiro loves this chick, even though her first introduction to him and one of only 2 conversations with him is basically the equivalent of her going on a first date and not shutting up about her ex. And it just so happens that her ex is a genocidal maniac while we're at it. Mashiro's motivation outside of her also suffers. After chapter 1, his stable home life that we're made aware of is never seen again. Yet the story will like try to tug at your heartstrings about him wanting to protect his childhood friend there, who we don't even really know. It does logically track that he would want that, but it feels like Mashiro as a character is an alien element to us. That's the real problem, is there's no grounding element to the storyline. So I would say that the only thing the story has left going for it is the incredibly convoluted, incredibly confusing plot. It entirely stands on the legs of you caring about this story's non-existent impact on continuity, and in the end, the reveals you do get are incredibly disappointing. I'm going to tell you what they are to save you some time on reading this, so if you really don't want to hear me spoil this, click on to the next chapter. Alright, so the most striking question to me is, how is Haman alive? After nearly 50 chapters of build-up, the answer is, it is actually her sister Serena, or Serana, depending on your translation, which sounds like a completely new thing made up for this, completely out of left field, and it is certainly not an inspired revelation by any means, it's like a soap opera plot, but it does have some lore backing, since Serana is a character in Gundam Advanced Operation, a 1992 strategy RPG, and she's also in Char's Deleted Affair, another side manga I haven't read yet. Anyway, it turns out she rewrote her entire personality to make herself actually think she is Haman, so it's just needlessly weird on top of everything else. It just feels cheap and annoying that they even tease bringing back Haman. UC is already plagued with villain returns and revivals like Full Frontal and also Shiroko at the same time in this. So what about Mashiro's weird connection to Shiroko? Well, it turns out he's actually one of 30 clones of Shiroko, and when he died earlier in the story, he actually hopped consciousness over to another one of his bodies. So what's the point of like every new type leader not making like 30 clones of themselves so they can just not die ever? They can just hop from body to body. I don't know, man, it's dumb. So yeah, we're doing the Spider-Man clone saga in Gundam now. It is quite literally the most boring, by-the-books revelation they could have gone for after teasing Shiroko's return. It's also just needlessly complicated, like the entire storyline. Moving on to Shiroko's whole other hidden legacy, apparently he did make the AGX Gundam, and left behind several plans for other Gundams, all called Grimoires in this, to act as keys to his ultimate plot device MacGuffin. This stupid Angel Halo wannabe that can rewrite people's consciousness within an area. So when did he have time to plan this elaborately, and how did he gain Char levels of influence to put it into motion? Who knows, really? I mean, that's really just the whole silliest thing about this is incessant glazing of Shiroko beyond the grave. To me, he was always a goober villain, far below the tier of Haman and Char. This series treats him like the dark prince of evil that has galaxy-spanning influence and represents all new types. Here's the thing, that's dumb. And Char already does that far better, and having another villain on his level of pedigree just makes Char feel less special, especially because it's happening during the same era, but I digress. The series just feels like it's constantly using cheap shock value to propel itself forward, so what we're left with is a manga with gorgeous art, cool mobile suits, and an interesting beginning, ultimately without much else to keep you interested. I also hate how much plot armor Mashiro has and just how overly important he is. I really don't like how he just sucks at everything, acts like a passive character in the storyline, and gets carried by his alternate subliminal personality, which can, by the way, just take over his body whenever. It's a shame that characters like like Thane and Elise are stuck in this. But what do you guys think? Are the good aspects of Walpurgis what stands out to you in contrast to the bad? Really, I can't see too many people being fans of this because it really just takes the wacky side of the lore, like the stupid magic and crap, and just goes wild with it. That's all I've got for you guys today, though. I'm sorry this wasn't as universally understandable and appealing as the other ones. I've just got to cover weird stuff eventually if I'm gonna talk about a lot of UC manga, right? I am also reading the prequel manga of this, by the way. I'm gonna talk about it separately down the line after I let it cook for a while. It only has like 11 chapters right now. Anyway, God bless you guys. See you later. Peace.